Hi, everyone. I'm Paula Harvey from Tejon Ranch Conservancy. We're going to do the second practice drawing exercise in a series of 7. Let's get started. So this is exercise 2. Exercise 1, we simply practiced controlling our lines by using our wrists, our fingers, our elbows, or our shoulders as we're drawing, paying really close attention to those parts of our body that we're using to draw. As before, think of these exercises as warm-ups and drills. You can do these anytime. If you're out in the field and you want to start doing nature journaling, but you really want to focus on the quality of your drawing, go ahead and use any one of these several different kinds of exercises just to warm up. And as you do this, the more you do it, just like if you are practicing in sports or in music, you're going to get better at drawing. The more you practice making those marks, the more you're going to naturally understand what your hand and your pencil do. The more you're going to connect what's going on in your brain and translating it through your hand onto a piece of paper. Practice number 2 is called drawing geometrical patterns. There's 2 steps to this. So doodling is great practice, and you can doodle anytime. You could be sitting there watching television, listening to music, and you can have a piece of paper, a little notepad, and just be doodling on it while you are listening. Not really thinking a lot about it, but just practicing something. So for example, if you wanted to do those finger arcs, you could be watching TV and just drawing finger arcs as you're doodling. Just what I'm going to ask you to do in this case is take one full page of your journal, and I want you to fill that page with random geometrical patterns. So you're going to make some dark lines, light lines, thick lines, thin lines. You're going to make variable lines, some that are part dark or start dark and end up light. Make some circles, some squares, some triangles, lots of straight lines, smooth curves, and all of those arcs, finger arcs, elbow arcs, and shoulder lines, all of those kinds of things, wrist arcs, don't forget those. I want you to practice drawing these shapes and focus on moving only that shoulder or only the elbow, only your wrist or only your finger, just as you did in practice 1. We're going to do this again. But in this case, you're doing it on a piece of paper, but you're also adding a lot of geometrical shapes. When you've drawn all of those lines and all those shapes, I want you to go back and label them as finger, wrist, elbow, or shoulder drawings. Make sure you've got lots of each type. So here we have an example of someone doing a whole bunch of these. This is not to be beautiful and gorgeous. This is not an art piece. This is a practice exercise. So in here, notice there's lots of, here's wrist and elbow and finger. Let's see, here's finger right over here. And this is shoulder here, all these straight lines. And then a lot of geometrical shapes. We've got triangles here and circles, squares, all kinds of different things. And they're all labeled. Also, some of these lines are dark and some of them are light. Some of them are thicker than others. Just make sure you've got lots of them. Once step 1 is done, we're going to start on step 2. So in step 2, now you're going to use a colored pencil, and you're going to fill in some of those spaces, and you're going to concentrate on tone, grading, and texture. We're going to talk a little bit about what each of those is to make sure that you understand. You want to fill in some of those spaces with even, continuous tone. So if you're using a colored pencil and you're coloring with small little circles at the same pressure, so that when you are done, the entire thing has that same tone. All of it is one color. But I also want you to create some graded tone as well, going from a dark color to a light color and changing the value of that as you go. If you look at this particular PowerPoint, you'll notice it's quite light right here in the bottom and darker over here, Over here, it starts kind of grading and becoming a little different. You can almost see sort of a line where that happens. That's graded tone. You want to do that on your paper. And it doesn't have to be this light. It can be much darker and have a very light part to a very dark part. Fill in some of those boxes with hatch lines, cross lines. Add some texture to it. What does a hairy surface look like? If you're going to be drawing mammals, you want to be able to draw their fur. So play with that. Create a hairy surface, a bumpy surface, a pitted surface, a pebbled surface, something with cracks, anything you like. Create your own textures. Be inventive, but really start having fun experimenting with all of these different kinds of things. Use, however, only one color. I don't want you to use a whole bunch of colors and use colors as a way of creating these tones. I want you to use one color, but in it, vary the pressure that you're using to create either continuous tone or variable tone, graded tone. Whether you're creating textures or not, I want you to do it all with one single pencil. Notice all of the things you can do with one pencil. You're going to be able to draw straight lines, curves, parallel lines, all of those things by practicing this, which will make it so much easier when you're drawing plants or you're drawing animals. So that's what you're going to be working on. And here's an example of taking this original paper with these different shapes that are already labeled, and now adding one color. In this case, it was green. And notice here, for example, is a graded tone. It's lighter here, darker here. Got some bold lines, got some light colors, got some textures. Here's some cracks. Here's some spots, making it speckled. Lots of different kinds of textures here. And that's all you're doing. You're just playing with this. It isn't to end up being beautiful. It's simply there to end up having been a way to practice some of these techniques. The more you practice, the better you get at all of this. And that's it for the second practice. We'll see you next time for practice number 3.